Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a new architecture for learning, one that's built for the age of AI. It's all about getting past our outdated ideas about training and building something that's actually, well, intelligent. All right, let's kick things off with a pretty shocking number, 70%. That's the failure rate, the staggering failure rate for most AI and digital transformation projects. Think about that. Millions are poured into these things, and the vast majority just don't work out. So you have to ask, right? It's a total paradox. We have this absolutely incredible technology, and yet we can't seem to make it stick. Well, it turns out the problem isn't really the tech at all. Nope, it's our old, fundamentally broken way of thinking about learning and adapting. And this gets us right to the heart of what we call the AI paradox. See, the old model is simple. You train your people, and then you deploy the AI. But here's the kicker. The AI changes and evolves so fast that the training you did becomes useless almost overnight. And that creates this huge chaotic gap between how fast the machine is learning and how fast the humans are. It leads to guesswork, chaos, and, failure. So the solution, it requires a really fundamental shift in our thinking. We've got to ditch that linear train and hope model you see on the left and move to something circular and adaptive like you see on the right, a system that is constantly monitoring, detecting issues, and correcting them in a never-ending loop. And that idea of a continuous loop, well, it's at the heart of this really powerful concept called cybernetics. And look, this isn't some kind of science fiction. It's a well-established science that's built entirely around the idea of feedback. At its heart, cybernetics is surprisingly simple. Just think about the thermostat in your house, right? It's always sensing the temperature in the room, it's comparing it to the temperature you want, and then it corrects the difference by kicking on the heat or the AC. It's a perfect little self-regulating system. And that is the engine of a cybernetic learning system. It's a simple three-step loop. First, it senses what's actually happening by collecting data. Second, it compares that reality to what you want to be happening, the goal. And third, it makes a correction to close that gap. This loop just runs and runs, constantly making these small, intelligent adjustments. And this right here is the crucial point. Learning isn't a separate thing you go do anymore. It's not a class you take once a year. In this new architecture, the system you use for doing the work is the system for learning the work. They're exactly the same thing. Okay, so how does this actually work in practice? Well, it's not just about regulating little simple actions. A true cybernetic learning system works on 4 completely different levels, scaling all the way from individual tasks right up to the entire culture of an organization. The first and most basic level is what we call action regulation. This is really about the nuts and bolts. What are people actually doing day to day in their jobs? And this comparison just perfectly nails the shift in mindset. A traditional manager just asks, are they following the procedure? But the cybernetic system asks a much smarter question. When somebody does something different, is that an error we need to fix? Or is it an innovation we need to learn from? All right, let's move up a level to goal regulation. This isn't just about what people are doing, it's about what they're aiming for in the first place. The old question is always, did we hit our targets? But the new, much more powerful question is, wait a minute, are we even measuring the right things anymore? For instance, a customer service team might be crushing their target for fast response times, but if customer satisfaction is going down, then the goals themselves are wrong. This system spots that mismatch. The third level gets even deeper. Here we're looking at intent regulation. This is all about understanding the why behind the decisions and judgments people are making. So instead of just having a static rulebook that tells people what to decide, this system focuses on how they develop good judgment. It's about building and scaling that institutional wisdom you need to handle all the tricky situations that no rulebook could ever possibly predict. And finally, we get to the highest and honestly the most profound level, behavioral regulation. This is about how an organization's real culture, not the one on the posters, actually operates and evolves. This level is where you uncover the truth. A company might say it values innovation, but when the data from meeting transcripts shows that so-called brainstorms have literally 0 dissenting voices, well, that reveals a culture of conformity. It stops blaming people for being resistant to change and instead diagnoses the hidden systems that are shaping their behavior. Now, here's where it gets really powerful. Each one of those 4 levels we just talked about is driven by its own feedback loop, and they're all operating on different timescales, nested one inside the other. So at the fastest level, you've got microloops working in seconds, giving people little real-time nudges. Zoom out to days, and you've got mesoloops that generate more targeted learning based on emerging patterns. Over months, macro loops help you evaluate and totally redesign processes. And then finally, over years, the meta loop actually starts to evolve the organization's cultural DNA. And this is the absolute breakthrough. It's called second-order learning. The system doesn't just learn from its mistakes. It learns how it learns. It's the difference between, say, learning that a new product failed and learning that your entire product development process is biased, and then actually fixing the process itself. So where does all this lead? What's the end game for building this complex architecture? Well, it creates something truly new, the self-aware organization, an organization that can see itself with total clarity and consciously guide its own evolution. This table just lays it all out so clearly. I mean, look at the difference. Content isn't written by experts in a room somewhere. It's extracted directly from how people are actually working. Delivery isn't on a schedule. It's just in time, right when you need it. And maybe the biggest one of all, we stop measuring useless stuff like course completion rates, and we start measuring what actually matters: real behavior change and real business impact. This is the whole point. An organization with this kind of architecture can finally see itself clearly, warts and all. It can understand its own hidden patterns and biases, and then consciously decide how it wants to evolve. It creates an organization that can at last adapt as fast as the technology it's trying to use. And that really leaves us with a crucial question this new architecture poses. In an age of constant breakneck change, is your organization just reacting to the future as it comes, or is it building the ability to consciously evolve into it? Thanks for watching The Explainer.